Hey everyone, welcome to the Rugger. My name is Nate. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Autumn Internationals this year, how the top five teams in the world did, gave them a grade. I'm going to tell you why they got that grade, and then I'm going to talk just a little bit about the World Cup draw that's coming up on Wednesday, which is great news, and just on Ireland in general, really, and what's next. So, to crack things on, Ireland against South Africa on Saturday last week was a bit of an eye opener, and it was a soul searching week for a lot of Irish fans. I think the pundit videos online went bananas. They really kind of said, it was very doom and gloom. It was kind of like I had to step away from the apps for a while. The pundits that I usually look at, RT, Indosport, it was very critical, and in some respects, rightfully so. But I think people need to relax and realize that no one died, and the sun will rise again. So yeah, I think the main point that was mentioned a lot about Ireland versus South Africa was the scrum, how dominant South Africa were in the scrum. But I'm just going to take you through the events bit by bit as the match unfolded. It was a real dogfight in the Aviva on that Saturday. So it was, very straight away you could see it was going to be a very physical game, very, everybody in each other's faces. I think there were a few dubious calls that actually did go South Africa's way, but at the same time, I really can't fault the referee, Matt Carley. I think most of his calls were right, and the cards, the avalanche of cards that Ireland got, the most cards I've ever seen a team get in the game, not just Ireland, but just in general. I think all of them were very justified. So, yeah, it starts off. There's a South Africa try in the first few minutes. Looking again at that, it looked like there was a couple of forward passes in there, but whatever. We jog on. Happens all the time. But then a few moments later, Sasha Feinberg Magomazulu, he comes in really hard to Tommy O'Brien. It looks like head contact. It's a very convincing yellow card for review. All it comes under is a penalty. I thought that was a bit of a stretch, but you know, there was these kind of calls on both sides. Now the second try that South Africa got, it was from Cobus Reinach, the scrum half for South Africa. But watching the game again, and you pick up these little things again, the second time you watch it, you can see Sia Khaleesi, and he kind of drags Sam Prendergast out of the way, off the ball, and then he puts his arm right up to Tyke Furlong's neck, and kind of stops him from making any space. And then you can see still nearly catches Cobus, but it's not captured by the referee. It looks like he's just taking out the two players for no reason. So I thought that one was lucky for South Africa. But all in all, they win the first half, and rightfully so, because there's just a stream of cards. The first one was the red card for James Ryan. It was really unfortunate. 20-minute red card. People say he was lucky it wasn't a permanent red card, but he comes in over a ruck to Malcolm Marks, and it's a real blatant blow to his head, and he's off. For the remainder of the game. Someone replaced him 20 minutes later, but he's still off. Then you had Sam Prendergast, who was offside. He's called off for a yellow. Then you have Jack Crowley, who puts his hands into a ruck. When the ball is getting released, can't do that either. He's off. So there's this bizarre moment where both fly halves are off, sitting in the sin bin together. And then you have, right before the first half ends, Andrew Porter gets pinged for too many infringements at the scrum. So yes, there is a moment where the team is down to 12 players, and that's when they really pay dearly. Right into the run-up of the first half, South Africa get a penalty try, fully justified. So they're really much in the driving seat at half-time. Would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for the locker room for Ireland at that point. They must have really had to dig deep, because in the second half, bizarrely, Ireland wins 6 points to 5. I just don't know how they did that. There was a yellow card for Paddy McCarthy for too many penalties at the scrum, and then there's this moment of 5 minutes in the second half where South Africa just keep pounding Ireland at the scrum. They get the penalty and they ask for another scrum, and it just goes on and on. And it was like a message they were trying to say, look how great our scrum is compared to you guys, and fair play to them. They have their scrum down. They really do. And scrum is the word this week. It's just been mentioned by all the pundits, the state of Ireland scrum. Now, I think you have to take these kind of outbursts with a pinch of salt, because I can't remember the last time Ireland's scrum has been talked about so much. In fact, it's fair to say that the dominating word was the line-out this month for Ireland. It's all about the line-out. Why is the line-out so bad? How does Paul O'Connell keep his job? Blah blah blah. And then they really sorted it for Australia, and then everybody shut up about the line-out. So now they're all talking about the scrum. So it's always just one thing or the other. So you have to be you have to have an open mind when you listen to these critics and these pundits. It's like a buzzword that just infects everybody. But yeah, Ireland put up this really stoic, and I gotta say, it was a very resilient and impressive defense in the second half. Scoreboard it's weird. It's 24 points to 13 at the final whistle. And by the way people have been talking about it, you'd swear it was like 1,000,000 points to 1. But and to be fair, it should have been a bigger margin. I just don't understand why South Africa didn't really step on the throat there and just play it wide, get their backs to score tries. It just felt like if you want that kind of revenge for Durban last year, which is clearly still in their heads, that's what I would have done. Playing on this team, just really crushing the opposition with this dominance and power. But they still win, and that's the main thing. But I don't think it's all doom and gloom for Ireland. I think you look at that defense, and it was impressive. There's still good things to take away from that game, but just two main things you want Ireland to work on is discipline and the scrum. And I think really they are rusty. They're still not back to it because Andy Farrell has been away for so long from that team. He was doing his Lions tour. And during the summer, it was a total B team that played Portugal and Georgia. So they're just catching up. I think they will be much better in the new year. So that is why I've given them a C plus for their autumn international. They lost 2 games. Now they were the two best teams in the world really right now, South Africa and New Zealand, but it's still a 50% success rate. So you have to say it's a C plus. I really wanted to give them a B minus for that really stoic last 20 minutes, half an hour against South Africa. But if you're only winning 2 out of 4, I have to give them a C plus. So that brings me on to South Africa. So they are definitely considered the best team in the world right now. People are even saying the best team in history. Think about it, they are 2 off the bounce, 2 double World Cup winners. I've been done once before with New Zealand back in 2011, 2015. South Africa won 2019 and the last one 2023. They are already very strong favourites to win it again, to make it a three-peat, which has never been done before. So this squad means business. They have real big depth, a lot of really good players. So their last game was against Wales yesterday, and it's a record home defeat for Wales, 73 points to 0. They even couldn't, fire a shot. And you're looking at, a really good, unquestionably good Springboks performance, but it's just there's a shadow that's cast over it now because of Eben Etzebeth trying to eye gouge one of the Welsh players. At the very end, the 79th minute, Alex Mann, Eben Etzebeth puts his thumb into his left eye during this scuffle, and it's horrendous. He gets a red card. He's off. He's for disciplinary review this week. Something like that is really bad for the game. It's ugly to watch. It's rancid to see. Just this is not what we need in rugby. It's not attractive. It's bodily harm. We're talking about real bodily harm. So this is something that could be permanent to somebody. Now, back in the day when we didn't have so many rules, the TMO, huge priority on player welfare. This happened. People talked about it. I'd never actually seen it in a rugby game. I thought those days were over because there's so many cameras everywhere. You can't get away with stuff like that. And rightfully so, Eben was given the red card. Now, he is, he's like a brand unto himself. He's the most capped Springbok in history. He's a huge, tall guy, really imposing player. Just, he's a real part of this team. So I do hope, he gets his ban, but he comes back because we need Eben Etzebeth in rugby. But that ban is going to be, that could be 3-4 months. Some people are saying 6 months. Some people are saying he should be, charged. He should be, like a year banned. He should not be allowed to play rugby again. So there's all shades of reactions to this. Now, some people did say Alex Mann provoked this by getting his hand and kind of swiping it at Eben. It wasn't a punch. It was just kind of like a scrape with the fingers more than anything. And then he ripped at his shirt. Now, that happens a lot in rugby. I don't know. You can't really justify, an eye gouge. So, yeah, it's a shame. But still, I give them an A minus. They've had a great tour. Probably just because of those couple of red cards that they got. I docked them a few points. And really, I just feel like in that last 20 minutes or half an hour, they should have really done a number on Ireland. It was their best chance to do so in a long time. Remember, this is the first time they won at the Aviva in 12, 13 years. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm surprised they didn't pull the trigger properly on that. But yeah, they get an A minus. And then we go on to New Zealand, who played Wales. Sorry, in their last game, sorry, they did play Wales. 52 points to 26. So they only lost one game. It was against England in a very good clinical English performance, you have to say. So I've given them a flat B because they did win 3 out of their 4 games, but some of those games kind of, it wasn't until the very end they really started to run away with it. The game against Ireland, Chicago, last 20 minutes to run away with it. The game against Scotland, I think they really looked like it was the verge of an upset there. I think it was like Scotland lost that more than New Zealand won it. And that's why I'm giving them a flat B. I think it was until the last 10 minutes that you could say, okay, it's New Zealand's day today. It was Scotland's best chance to beat the All Blacks in a long, long time that I can remember. So they are still a fantastic team. They have a huge ceiling. So, they're only going to get better over the next couple of years, and they always turn up for World Cups. But for the moment, that's what I've given them. And then we have France. So I've given France a B minus. So yeah, I just think they were beaten by the Springboks, even though they had a man advantage. And I'm just like, God, you think this French team, with all the talk about it, they really shouldn't be letting that happen. Now, they are without Antoine Dupont. He's coming back soon. That will change things. They just seem to be in a different gear without him. But I just thought, God, that's surprising. To have that advantage and to have the depth that they have, a very strong team. I just thought that was disappointing. And even against Australia, they were not convincing. There wasn't much in that. I thought it was a big score on both sides between France and Australia. It was 48 points to 33. I just thought, God, I thought these guys were a bit better. Now, they are a bit rusty because they play well into the summer. They always send the B team down to the Southern Hemisphere for their summer games like they did with New Zealand this year. So there is that to factor in. They're just rusty playing together because of their demands for the clubs in France. But that's what I give them, B minus. And then we have England, who last played Argentina, and they won 27 points to 23. Kind of let Argentina back in that game, so that's why I'm giving them a B plus. Even though they did win all their games for the autumn, they had an easier route than Ireland and France because they never played South Africa, and that's the real acid test. But they played brilliant against New Zealand. It was a really, really good management of the game, keeping the score ticking over. It's worth another watch, actually, that game. It reminded me of the semi-final between England and New Zealand in the 2019 World Cup. They even did the flying V as a stand up to the haka, which I love. I think England are actually the best team in the world to stand up against the haka. They always just do something really charismatic like that. Even if it's with their face, they always just have this great game face on for the haka. So yeah, I'm giving them a B plus just because I felt like they really let in Argentina back into that game, the last game they played. So yeah, that's the breakdown. Now, it's not like I'm ranking these like best at the top, worst at the bottom. I put the rankings next to them. So South Africa are 1. Top ranked team in the world. Then we have New Zealand. Then we have England, and I think that's fair. They were very close to even winning the Six Nations they're on this year, so they should be 3 with how they've been playing. Then we have Ireland at 4. I think that's quite fair, and then France at 5, which I think would be higher, but it's just the way their season is. It's probably the most kind of like it's not really a proper reflection of how good they can be when they've had a bit more practice and the best players ready. So that's the Autumn Internationals. Please leave a comment what you thought of the Autumn Internationals as well. Did you like it? Could it have been better? What were the worst moments? What were the best moments? So then we have the World Cup draw. And that is really closely linked to how the rankings are right now. So if we were to go one under, another team that would be ranked 6th, it's Argentina. So the top 6 teams in the world, they're the safest in terms of their draw. The World Cup draw is going to be done on Wednesday in Australia and Sydney on Channel 9. I'm actually trying to find out what time because I'd love to see this live, but you can watch it on Rugby Pass TV. Should be for free on Wednesday, maybe Wednesday night. I'm not sure the time anyway, but that's when they're going to do the draw, and you're going to see, what team gets what batch for the group stage. So if you don't know already, this next World Cup in Australia in 2027, it's going to be different. The structure is going to be different. There's going to be more teams than ever. There's going to be 24 teams this time. So that means it's kind of like FIFA World Cup. They're going to have a round of 16 in between the group stage and the quarterfinals, which just means another knockout game to kind of weed out the weaker teams. So the trade-off of that is, you might say, God, that's just another hurdle. That's like the last thing Ireland needs because they're so, they can never get past the quarterfinal. But the trade-off is it means that there are less teams in your group. Traditionally, you have 4 opponents to play in a group stage. Like Ireland did, they had Tonga, Romania, Scotland, and South Africa. That was a very tough group as well, group of death, really. But this time, there'll only be three teams to play. And they will be from lower ranked brackets than the top 6 because of where Ireland are. So that's good news. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Round of 16, it's an interesting way to do it. So yeah, it's going to be just a slightly different structure, but I'll be very looking forward to seeing how much, what the implications will be with the draw. So where are Ireland now? I suppose, it's kind of, there's so many different shades of perspective on this, but I'd like to look at things with the glass half full. And I think if Ireland is going to learn a lesson, let them learn it now. Let them get the cuts now, and figure out what is really wrong with the team. This game against South Africa, we were lucky to have this lesson against South Africa, to be shown how good this team is and what you're going to be up against over the next couple of years. So I don't think it's really, I don't know, I think it's not the worst thing in the world to get a lesson like this, to get a bit of a slap. And there are work-ons, but they're all perfectly possible work-ons. You get your scrum better, you get your scrum tighter, you get more players in that are younger. The depth of Ireland is there. It's just we have a tendency to hold on to our players for a long time. So I think Andy's strategy was to just get through this with experienced players, with his trusted lieutenants, maintain, be in that bracket, the top 6, and now he can play, with his options. So in January, when he picks his squad, that's going to be, heavily scrutinized. I just want him to see, more new players there, because between the 4 provinces, it's really chugging along. If you just saw the games this weekend, you'll see there's loads of young players that look really promising, regardless of the position they're in. So that's up to him, though. That's his decision to make. But you look at players like Finlay Bealham, James Lowe, Bondiaki, great servants of the game. We love these guys, but they are getting to be the wrong side of 30 for some of them. Especially, I would say, Bondiaki. He's going to be 37 by the time the next World Cup rolls around. You have to be like, is it time to put him in the pasture? And that breaks my heart because everybody loves him. He's, such a popular figure and just such a great servant for the country, for rugby. So, but those are the questions Andy's going to have to ask. So I would say keep your chin up if you're an Irish supporter. We're just getting started. The year's just begun this season. Really excited for the Six Nations. I don't think there's much in it at all. Anything could happen, so we'll see. We'll see what squad is picked first. But I'll be looking forward to that. The casualties. There are a fair few casualties, unfortunately, and that just means more opportunities, especially if you're the Irish rugby team. So you have Ian Henderson, he's injured. Mac Hansen, unfortunately, has a recurring foot injury. He is out injured at the moment, which is a shame because he looked brilliant at 15 for Australia. Really looked like Mac is back, the old Mac that we love, that just plays this really unpredictable, charismatic rugby. So he will be back. Stuart McCluskey, another standout player for the autumn that just was really pestered by this groin injury. So unfortunately, he's out at the moment, but I'm delighted that he got such limelight and many kudos given to him, rightfully so, for a great performance against New Zealand. Tommy O'Brien is injured. A few Leinster people injured. Robbie Henshaw, Jamie Osborne, and then Ryan Baird, unfortunately, who was having a great autumn, who was really, I think, one of my favourite standouts up there with Paddy McCarthy. He broke his leg, though, in that South Africa game. That South Africa game really was a punisher. Got a few scars from that one, but hope he gets better, because he definitely seems like the heir apparent for the 6th position. And to follow someone like Peter O'Mahony, those are big boots to fill, but he is definitely looking promising when he's back, when he's fully fit and everything. But he looked great at moments, really just good there in the engine room of the back row. So, yeah, hopefully wish him a speedy recovery. Joe McCarthy, who was really missed over the autumn, he is supposed to be coming back very soon to Leinster, hopefully before Christmas. because, you know, as a lock, we really miss his presence. He's just a totally different beast, really, to the other locks. And then Hugo Keenan on the news feed should be back by January. That's the goss. It'll be great because when he's back fully fit and he's doing well, he's one of the best fullbacks in the world. He's like Ireland's goalkeeper at times. I don't know how many tries that guy has saved. So yeah, we really want Hugo back, hopefully in time for the Six Nations. And just to cap it off with the Sam Jack conversation, debate, I suppose. Well, I mean, I don't think we should add any fuel really to this debate, especially for the time being. But all I will say is that the game of Australia, when Ireland played Australia, that was their best game in quite some time. And it was, you know, if you want to take something positive from this whole autumn, it's that game and how in flow the team looked. And it was the first time where I don't remember anyone saying who's better, Jack or Sam. You know, they just looked really perfectly poised for the times that they were on. Sam started and then Jack came off the bench. But both of their performances in that game really complemented, you know, the outcome and how the team was working. So I think they are finding their feet with how to use these guys. You should never look at it like these guys are fighting each other. They're in the group together fighting the opposition. That's how you have to encourage it. There's always going to be two fly halves, always. So we have to get used to it. So you could wear yourself out with this debate and go nowhere. So I think, you know, just remember that performance against Australia that just looked really nicely synced for the way it was managed when they, you know, were flattening Australia when they were managing the game towards the end and scoring more. So it's encouraging to see that they're getting that chemistry right, that balance. So yeah, lots to stew over in the time being, you know, before the Six Nations, but that was the Autumn Internationals. We're looking forward to looking at the URC games over the weekend and as well the upcoming games for the Challenge Cup and the Champions Cup. So right again, rugby is back in it. You know, it never really sleeps now, which is great. I hope you enjoyed the Autumn Internationals, and please leave a comment in the video, like and subscribe, and enjoy your rugby in the meantime. Thanks. Bye.